Palantir today got absolutely wrecked, and it's coming in that the CEO is trying to sell $1.2 billion worth of stock. And on top of that, there's some other news surrounding the stock that's making it plummet as well, and earnings might not continue to grow the way they have. So we have to talk about what's happening there, and then ultimately some of the opportunities that are happening in the market coming into tomorrow as well. So that's how we're going to start today's session. Now here in the after hours, you're seeing Palantir drop down to 107, another $5 of downside, but ultimately on the day down around 10%. It is worth mentioning at highs on Palantir today, you were all the way up near 125, really breaking all-time highs once again, but then ultimately dropping to the downside. Now, a few things that I do want to say. Looking at Palantir, if anyone's pulling up a chart and showing you, this is what's happening, this is why, well, I'm going to tell you right now, there's not too much you can show someone on a chart for Palantir, because ultimately when you look at this thing on the daily, time frame, you've basically gone straight up. What I will say is if you start to break below $100, $99, it's very likely that you come back down into 84, because that's just a clear line of where buyers and sellers were most active as of recently, and that's really all you need to know. That's your next big support, if you will. And I will say there's little to no liquidity, because you basically went from $85, $86 into $125 like that, right? Very important to understand. I can't snap this wrist all the way. I broke my knuckle a few years back. But anyways, that is where we're at right now on Palantir as far as the chart is concerned. Now, today, again, this is like the first time we've really seen sellers get active on Palantir in the past few months. And again, you're still seeing some of that downside there. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what's happening as far as the CEO attempting to sell or aiming to sell. Now, before we go into that, let's talk about what's really happening here. Shout out to TrendSpider for the visual. Palantir insider transactions as of 2024. Okay, this is January 2024 to now, basically. 0 insider buys, selling about $3 billion worth of shares. Now, I will say, over the course, this is for 2020. This is not including right now, right? This is not including Alex Karp. Okay, so I want to just say something really quick about this. Palantir's market cap is $262 billion. As of market close, you were sitting at $262 billion in the market cap, okay? Hindsight looking at that, if insiders sell around 1.3% worth of the market cap, that isn't terrible, okay? You need to also understand, insiders typically are getting paid out in either stock options or whatever it may be. So it's possible that they are paying. Now, I will say, I don't think the insiders of the company should be paying themselves $3 billion for the year for compensation. That's a little crazy. But I will say, compared to some other names, where the market cap's at, that's not absolutely astonishing, okay? Now, what I will say is Palantir worth $262 billion based on their earnings? We've already said that Palantir is priced where it's at based on growth and based on the expectation of their growth. Well, today, I think things changed drastically. And you haven't had an earnings yet, but this could really be the smoke, right? The leftover smoke there, right? That's really giving you a little bit of a signal of what's to come here. Now, again, the first thing we're looking at is what's happening with Palantir's stock and what's happening overall with Alex Karp planning to sell, again, $1.2 billion worth of stock. Now, does that mean he's going to sell $1.2 billion worth of stock tomorrow, this week, or this month? No, that's not what it means, okay? He basically just a file in order to start offloading that position. So that's the important thing to know. This is just an overall plan. It's like when Bezos said he was selling his shares at around $200, and we all knew that was happening, and Amazon couldn't get above $200 for like 3 months, and then it eventually broke and shot up. So it's very important to understand. It was a catalyst. It held Amazon down. Amazon's obviously worth a lot more money. But again, that is what's happening right now. Could this be a big signal? In my opinion, it really could be. Because once again, he's definitely cashing out pretty large here. Now, does that mean he's selling all of his shares? He probably still has tons more, right? Yes. But I will say right now, taking a $1.2 billion paycheck is far more than big competitors that we've seen. People complain about people like Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, selling shares. Well, Jensen has a lot more, shares in NVIDIA, and he has a lot more equity that he could sell. but he's not out here selling $1.2 billion worth of his equity really ever at a time, which is pretty insane to think about. So again, you have a company like Nvidia, which is worth over $1 trillion, and the CEO isn't selling this much money worth of stock at a single time, right? Or filing for it. So that's really important to understand. And it also wasn't like he was just paid out in stock options or anything along those lines. This was just something that he finally planned to file. Now, again, is it smart for Alex Karp to maybe try to pull some profits out here? Logically speaking, yes. It makes a lot of sense, because when you look at what's happening a little bit further, again, we have to go back to what the earnings are telling us and what's happening as far as what the company is worth. Now, again, I'm not here to say the company's worthless and it's bad and you shouldn't buy it. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to use rationale and you have to use some logic here. Number one, when you look at their earnings, just from the past year, yes, you're getting great growth. 634, 678, 725, 827, a massive recent beat, right? And then your next earnings are going to be coming up in a few months now, right? That's awesome. Big beats. But you have to do the rationale. Even if we round up to they're making $1 billion a quarter, currently they are only their market cap is $262 billion, right? It's not the math isn't mathing. Right? That's what you have to come to the point to. And you look at companies like Nvidia that we claim are overvalued, but again, that's the major problem here. They're also not, they're not at that point to where like, oh, this company's extremely profitable. It's not really there yet. Okay? The PE ratio not lining up, basically a 600 score. Again, these are all telltale signs that, look, anything could push you over the edge, right? And that's what I was saying too. When you look at these companies that are high growth, and again, there's nothing wrong with being a high growth company. The problem with the high growth company is especially when you're getting momentum like Palantir has been, is guess what? When the growth slows down or investors see growth becoming an issue, well, guess what? The stock represents that worry. That is the big problem here. Now, is this an overreaction? Could this bounce back? I'll say this. I think, yes, Palantir could bounce back. It's a possibility. Number one, you will need a continued strong market, in my opinion. Number two, you're going to need more confirmation of overall growth and more of what's happened. Do I think it just free falls here? I think there's a high possibility if you get below $100, which you're already at 106 right now in the after hours, that you come down to 85. I think that is a very high possibility. Now, from there, do you just free fall again? We'll see how we react with the buyers. But so far, that's about it. That's all I can tell you as of right now. But above this, there's no liquidity. There's literally no support whatsoever. So that's very important that we understand. And right now, the ship has been shook, if you will, right? This is definitely not as smooth selling as you were before. And now there's definitely hiccups and concerns, especially with the leadership of why is he selling so much right now. But again, this might just be the big payday that he wants at this time, right? It hasn't been his, he hasn't had one of them yet. This might be what he wants. So important to understand. I will say he is worth quite a bit of money as it is, but worth mentioning. Okay. The second part of this, of what's really concerning, this is the part that I think you should really be concerned with. Now, I will say, do I think that they're going to stop spending money? The Pentagon? No. Is this going to be directed at Palantir? We don't know that. But today, the Pentagon released that they have to revamp their budget and they have to really start tightening up their expenses. You can actually go to this report here from Motley Fool. Again, not a huge fan of Motley Fool, but again, nonetheless, still goes in detail here. According to the report, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, I can't pronounce his name ever, has instructed the Pentagon officials to prepare for budget cuts that could come in as high as 8% annually over the next 5 years. Now, that is a big number. Now, we've also understood Palantir's bread and butter with their deals that they've had. That's really got them to this point, right? They've finally gone out and gotten new, business to business and not directly with the government, right? But the government contracts have been the biggest contracts for them and really got them to where they are today. The question is, are those other businesses going to continue to maintain the growth that they have? Okay. I will say, again, you look at their earnings recently, it's been really good. So I do think this is the over exaggeration. It's impossible to narrow this down that their spending is going to go directly at Palantir. That's crazy to assume that. But I will say it does cause concern. It does cause worry. Okay. And again, those are things you do not want if you're a high growth company. You don't want any cause for concern. You don't want to have a fear that productivity, overall supply could slow down, right? But that's the other part here of Palantir. If you look at their earnings statements, if you look at the company as a whole, and again, I'm not trying to get anyone to buy right now. I think, again, you'll have opportunities, but again, the problem that they've had is fulfilling the demand, right? That's been the major problem. They've had a lot of customers, similar to NVIDIA, right? And again, this has been the theme for the past year, right? What companies in this sector of AI, chips, etc., have a lot of demand but can't fulfill that demand? Those companies have thrived. The companies that don't have enough demand have underperformed, and they've gotten hit very hard. And again, Palantir is one of those companies that has had great overall demand. So the more you look at this, the more there's question marks. But the other side of it too is, will these two things really reshape the function of the business? I don't think personally that Alex Karp is looking at this and it's like, look, they're taking budget cuts. We're going to get slapped. This is going to be bad. Bada bing, bada boom, the end. I don't think that's a logical way to look at this. I personally believe people have been asking, and again, I get asked here all the time. I get asked in my live streams, when do I buy Palantir? I'm telling you right now, you're going to get your opportunity. As much as it pains me to say that a chart like this going straight up for so long, this will be an opportunity. If you really want to buy the dip, you really want to get back into it, this will be an opportunity like that, coming back down towards 85, depending on the reaction. I'm trying to say that right now. Again, I can go over a handful of names where people were, oh, do we get back in? And y'all were saying it back here when you dipped down to 64. People were saying it back here when you dipped down to 22. You dipped down to 40. It was a whole thing, right? But again, the more you look at it, the more I'm looking at this, and the more I just look at the financials of the company, again, I don't think this hurts the overall long-term growth. Now, when the concerns really come in of Palantir dying, getting destroyed back to $30, $40, is earnings slowing down. And again, I will say that over and over. These good growth companies don't slow down based off of some insider selling, this or that. You'll get hiccups, you'll get pullbacks, you'll get opportunities. But overall, that's my viewpoint there. I also want to highlight something really, really quickly here, right? Something that I don't think enough people have taken the time to really focus in on. Look at the founders of Palantir. Like, shout out to Alex Karp. But I don't know if people know enough about Peter Thiel, Stephen Cohen. Stephen Cohen specifically, the absolute dog of an investor he is, right? This stuff doesn't concern me. So again, if you still have that understanding and you're still net bullish on the overall company, you like everything that you've had up until today, then I think you look at this as an opportunity in the short term of getting some stock. Again, I'm not saying to buy tomorrow. I'll have a lot of updates coming out for Palantir. But again, that's my viewpoint on this. If you have been up to this point, like, I like Palantir, it's going up, it's very strong. I believe in what they're doing. Fundamentally, it makes a lot of sense. Good growth continuing on. Then there's no way you look at this as, okay, this is bad, it's going to end now. That hasn't become a real worry. If you go into your next earnings and you see growth has stalled, deals with the government are killing you, then maybe we can talk. But again, I just don't see that happening right now. The only other part here too is that we've typically are in a government that has been spending, increasing. So instead of increasing this year, we'll be cutting. That is a problem. That's something that I could see being an issue. But again, my personal viewpoint, what I'd be watching for right now. Again, being patient, looking for opportunities, and ultimately that's what we love to see here. Now tomorrow, you have Baba earnings. Okay, that's another stock I want to talk about before I let you guys out of here. So Baba did take a hit on the day. I have a small Baba position. I will tell you right now, it is net down. So I'll say that freely. You did get a good push up when I first got it, but I went into the mentality of I want to have a little bit of a position. If earnings go really well, then I have already a position kind of established. I can add more where I want to add. If earnings go bad, then obviously I can buy on the dip if I want to. But again, Baba has earnings tonight. Again, why do we like Baba so much? Why have I been watching them? Again, for me personally, the biggest thing with Baba is partnership with Apple, increased earnings overall. The expectation of earnings is a little bit concerning, I will say, looking at Baba. I'm going to tell you that right now. I think they're estimated to do 38 billion in earnings, which would be the highest number that they've done since 2022. That is a concern. I'll tell you right now, 38 billion. That'd be wild if they do it. If they pull up 38 billion, I think it's a high possibility you move good. But again, I like where they're at. I think the partnership with Apple makes a lot of sense, getting Baba right on the right track. And again, I think this really improves iPhone's overall sales coming into China as well, especially with the new iPhone that they're releasing specifically, in my opinion, for China, and with the new AI tech that they're doing as well. So again, very important, affordable. I'm happy with what they're doing there. So Baba, I am watching that. A few other things here as well. Stocks we've been mentioning. HIMS. I see a lot of you guys asking me about this. HIMS announced that they are acquiring, so they're acquiring this company for at-home testing. This is for at-home blood testing. This is important as well. So you saw HIMS get a big move. Now, the thing with HIMS, and I told you guys what would be the concern, is basically the fat loss drug and things like that. If those things become issues and have headwinds down the line, it become a big issue. I still like HIMS. I'm not buying HIMS at this height anymore. When I mentioned it here, it was right here at $46 roughly. Y'all can go look back on previous videos. The title of the video is literally for HIMS. So again, steering clear of HIMS now. I have a few positions left, not a lot. I am basically out of this position. You've literally run from $45 into $70. That's a win. I am fine with this. I am not a buyer at this point. Another stock you guys keep asking me about, Robinhood. Am I saying these stocks are bad? No. Am I buying them at all-time highs? No. That is dumb. Anyone telling you to buy Robinhood at $64 million? Stupid. Or $64 a share? So stupid. Dumb. I'm going to tell you right now, Robinhood, the biggest thing here is you had great earnings. We talked about it. We knew they were going to have great earnings. I would be willing to bet big. They do not report a $1 billion earnings report at their next meeting. I'd be willing to bet, unless crypto has another big run, which I do not think it will. I think it's unlikely that crypto runs again like it did. Unlikely, right? And if it has been, it's been all meme coins that aren't on Robinhood's chain, right? Or what they have over there. So again, a lot of these names that have run, guys, stop FOMOing in, right? You need to be careful. Wait for we are finding the opportunities time and time again right now. Stop rushing in, right? You're getting some of those opportunities and you're going to continue seeing setups, but you don't need to be the first person in. And I'm going to continue warning you guys because again, a lot of you guys are getting trapped into these names, and I don't want that to happen to you. Like HIMS, just ignore it for now. I know, I'm sorry you missed out. Palantir, be happy. You're getting an opportunity potentially, right? To get in, to find a better opportunity. And again, you're going to continue seeing these setups. You're going to see more of the same that's happening here. Again, if you have questions, comment down below. I might have a video coming out a little bit later as well. So again, I'll see you then. Have a good one, traders.